Welcome back to New Jersey Viewpoint. I'm Ken Rosato. According to the CDC, drug overdose is the leading cause of accidental death in the U.S., and it's opioid addiction that is driving this epidemic. It's estimated that 23% of individuals who use heroin develop opioid addiction. A recent book entitled Full Recovery deals with this epidemic and suggests a path out. Please join me in welcoming the author, Brian McAlister, who is also CEO and founder of the Full Recovery Wellness Center located in Fairfield, New Jersey. Good to have you here today.
Thank you.
What inspired you to write Full Recovery?
Well, I got blessed because I got sober myself, and I lost my sister to a drug overdose, and sobriety was very good to me. I became very successful financially, my relationships, and I realized that, maybe I could use the knowledge I gained and help other people with it.
Well, tell us about your early years and the suffering and what you went through.
Well, I started drinking and drugging at an early age, about 12 years old. It very quickly turned into an addiction. By the time I was 17, I was expelled from school. I was on my own, became an outlaw biker type lifestyle, and things just got progressively worse from there. So I decided there's got to be a better way than this. And at 33 years old, I put the plug in the jug, as they say, stopped using drugs, and I decided to get sober, and here I sit now. So
what was your rock bottom moment? Because so many people who are addicted to alcohol or drugs don't even want to contemplate life without. How did you, at what point did you say, this is no longer worthy of my life? I need to change and get rid of this.
There were several severe bottoms, and one of them was an accident in which I broke my back. I almost lost my leg, traumatic brain injury, and that wasn't enough. As soon as I got out of the hospital, I threw my crutches out the window and hopped to the bar. That's the kind of hold this had on me. One day, about 6 years after that, I was having a bad day. I woke up, I hadn't been home for a few weeks, and that moment flashed into my mind of being in the hospital. When I was going to lose my leg, I called out to God. I said, please help me, I can't go on like this. And that moment flashed into my mind again, and I asked for help, and that was the day I wound up in a detox and started my journey back to sanity, really.
In your book, you talk about the difference between faith and hope. And why don't you describe the difference between the two, first off?
Well, hope's always happening in the future. I had a lot of hope. Things are going to get better someday. Someday I'll straighten out, someday I'll fall in love, someday I'll have a great career. But like faith is really means to expect. I'm going to expect something to happen. Not just religious faith, but religious faith is great too. But faith is strong. It's emotional. I say in the book that faith can move mountains, but you have to bring a shovel and lunch.
That is one of my favorite lines.
Yeah.
That was a great line, because it's one thing just to have faith and expect. People say their prayers and then they wonder, why I'm praying that I'll make money. I'm praying that I have a better job, but that they don't send out resumes or they don't do anything. They don't go to school. Exactly. They expect it'll come to them. So talk about how you decided. At what point you decided that I have to really sacrifice to make this happen, and how hard was that path?
What was worse than working, and I started out in very menial jobs, just changing habits, changing lifestyle. What was worse than that was being broke. And I decided I knew it was like to be broke. I was going to try something different. I had developed, like most addicts and alcoholics, an intense single-minded focus when I wanted to get what I wanted, my drugs. And I decided to take that skill set and direct it towards my dreams. And when I did that, the whole world opened up for me. I combined that with the moral and ethical lifestyle needed to stay sober.
So, Brian, why is it so hard for recovering addicts to stay sober? What is the difficulty? Why do so many people fall off the wagon?
Well, it's a brain disease. It's a physical, emotional, and spiritual disease. And the guy told me you have to change one thing. I said, what's that? He said, everything. He says, you cannot hang on to anything. Half measures get you nothing. So that's what I did. I decided to take that same, I used to risk my health, my freedom, my relationships, my finances. I took that same skill set and pointed it towards my dreams. And most people who are addicted don't realize that they have this skill set. They're just misusing it.
That's fascinating. And well, now there is this huge epidemic of heroin, the opioid epidemic, and also even prescription opioids that people are being addicted to. Opioid epidemic is, or opioid addiction rather, is nothing to sneeze at. It's a very complex, difficult addiction. What is fueling this current surge in opioid addiction?
Believe it or not, it's the way prescription drugs were prescribed really willy-nilly. They passed them out like they passed out candy. We have people that came in that got a tooth pulled and got 30 Oxycontin for the tooth pulled, and then before you know it, they're hooked on them, they run out of the oxys, and heroin becomes a cheap and viable solution to that problem. So it's really crazy, but it starts, 90% of the people that we see at the treatment center started out on pills. They started out with a prescription drug and then moved on to heroin.
Once again, the name of the book is Full Recovery. The author, Brian McAlister, who is here with us. We're taking a look at it on the screen. Brian, who is affected by opioid addiction the most right now?
Everybody's, it's believe it or not, it's white middle-class men under the age of 40 who are really suffering the most from this, but the families of the people who are struggling with addiction because they come through their life like a tornado.
What has your experience been in treating heroin addicts?
That they have every bit as good a chance of recovering as anybody else does. All you need is a crumb of willingness, the ability to take some simple actions on a daily basis, and stay with it long enough to see the miracle happen. And that's what it is. They don't get enough time in treatment quite often because of insurance companies not paying for treatment.
And there are new medications out there now too today, right? That you could, working with doctors, et cetera, that can help with, along with being, with therapy, et cetera, to get them off.
Exactly. There's Suboxone, which is the main detox drug right now, and Suboxone really is good for that. Long term, it's something you don't want to be on, you know, for an extended period, but then you're really just switching addictions. But the idea is to start lowering the medication, increasing the education.
That's fascinating. So at least there's some hope. There is something out there to help decrease the craving, if you will, and that's at Suboxone, is what you were talking
Absolutely.
about. How would you define full recovery? I mean, there's a reason why you gave the book that title.
Because addicts are more people. We want too much of everything. Too much is never enough. And full means abundant life in recovery. It means financially, relationship, your career, all the good things that make up a great life. So God gave me that talent, you know, that more gene. So what am I going to direct it towards? So I directed it towards my dreams. And we teach other people how to do the same thing.
How about the role of family and friends in the road to recovery?
Without my wife and my support system, it would have been very difficult. I was blessed. I had somebody who hung in there with me. But it's funny because the family and friends are often as ill as the person that we're treating. Codependency is also an addiction. So my wife got well, I got well, then our relationship got well. That's how it worked.
Fascinating. Well, the book really is a practical tool for everybody. What would you say the most insightful lessons would be for everybody from that book?
That you can have a wonderful life. You can realize your dreams, that you can overcome fear. It's fear that holds us most back. And the idea is by developing a faith in yourself, a faith in whatever your higher power you're choosing is, and having the ability to take action on a daily basis, we can have what we want.
When did you found the Wellness Center, your Full Recovery Wellness Center?5
The Full Recovery Wellness Center is 5 years old, 5.5 years old. Again, I became wildly successful in business before I did this. And when my sister died of an opiate overdose, I decided to see if we couldn't help other families not have to deal with the same situation.
And how many people have you seen come through the center now?
Gosh, I don't know, hundreds, but the book has affected thousands. So it's really an incredibly rewarding situation.
Brian McAlister, again, the author of Full Recovery and the founder of Full Recovery Wellness Center, Fairfield, New Jersey. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.
And for information on all of the organizations featured on Viewpoint, and if you've missed part of the show and you'd like to see it at your leisure, do visit us at abc7ny.com/viewpoint. We'll be right back with some important tips on how to handle cybersecurity. Don't go away.